We often forget how much unites all the members of humanity.
Now, much has been said by the Secretary of State and others about a new world order, about a defining moment in history. I have no doubt about the potential of this moment to be defining in terms of history, but that definition can be negative as well as positive. And how negative or positive it will be will depend on what kind of new world order we really create.
Part of that plan, of course, is to induce the gradual surrender of American sovereignty, piece by piece and step by step, to various international organizations, of which the United Nations is the outstanding but far from the only example. 1, greatly expanded government spending for every conceivable means of getting rid of ever larger sums of American money as wastefully as possible.
My 03 budget calls for more than $48 billion in new defense spending.
More money for the Pentagon when its own auditors admit the military cannot account for 25% of what it already spends.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
2.3 trillion with a T. That's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in America.
Around 1 billion people in the world are hungry. In sub-Saharan Africa, 1 in 3 regularly goes without food. Over 70% of the population here is dependent on agriculture. The soil is their only opportunity to use their labor and create a living.
Got a bit of an unusual situation. Now, this first portion of the radar cycle, fairly bland and typical, but then you see these bands of very distinct cloud cover moving into the region. That is not rain, that is not snow, believe it or not. Military aircraft flying through the region is dropping chaff. Small bits of aluminum, sometimes it's made of plastic or even metallicized paper products, but it's used as an anti-radar issue, and obviously they're up there practicing. Now, they won't confirm that, but I was in the Marine Corps for many years, and I'll tell you right now, that's what it is. 50 in Medford right now, 48 in Wairika, 42 in Klamath Falls. Forecast for tonight.
2, higher and then much higher taxes.
To understand how the Pentagon can lose track of trillions, consider the case of one military accountant who tried to find out what happened to a mere $300 million.
We know it's gone, but we don't know what they spent it on.
3, an increasingly unbalanced budget.
Jim Minery, a former Marine turned whistleblower, is risking his job by speaking out for the first time about the millions he noticed were missing from one defense agency's balance sheets. Minery tried to follow the money trail, even crisscrossing the country looking for records.
The director looked at me and he says, "Why do you care about this stuff?" It took me aback, you know. My supervisor asked me why I care about doing a good job. So.
He was reassigned and says officials then covered up the problem by just writing it off.
They got to cover it up. That's where the corruption comes in. They've got to cover up the fact that they can't do the job.
The Pentagon's Inspector General partially substantiated several of Minery's allegations, but could not prove officials tried to manipulate the financial statements. 20 years ago, Pentagon employee Franklin C. Spinney made headlines exposing what he calls the accounting games. He's still there, and although he does not speak for the Pentagon, he believes the problem has gotten worse.
Those numbers are pie in the sky. The books are cooked routinely year after year after year.
Retired Vice Admiral Jack Shanahan commanded the Navy's Second Fleet, the first time Donald Rumsfeld served as Defense Secretary.
With good financial oversight, we could find $48 billion in loose change in that building without having to hit the taxpayer.
In the 2.5 minutes since this report began, the Pentagon has spent nearly $2 million, and it may never know where 25% of those tax dollars went. In Los Angeles, I'm Vince Gonzalez for Eye on America.
4, wild inflation of our currency. 5, government controls of prices, wages, and materials, supposedly to combat inflation. 6, greatly increased socialistic controls over every operation of our economy, and every activity of our daily lives. This is to be accompanied naturally and automatically by a correspondingly huge increase in the size of our bureaucracy and in both the cost and reach of our domestic government.
Congress today reauthorized funding for Facebook, the massive online surveillance program run by the CIA. According to Department of Homeland Security reports, Facebook has replaced almost every other CIA information gathering program since it was launched in 2004.
After years of secretly monitoring the public, we were astounded so many people would willingly publicize where they live, their religious and political views, an alphabetized list of all their friends' personal email addresses, phone numbers, hundreds of photos of themselves, and even status updates about what they were doing moment to moment. It is truly a dream come true for the CIA.
7. Far more centralization of power in Washington and the practical elimination of our state lines. There is a many-faceted drive at work to have our state lines eventually mean no more within the nation than our county lines do now within the states.
Is this some group that we should know what they're doing because they're so influential, and when they enter into private or secret or unwritten agreements among themselves as to what they're going to do to influence politics and influence banking, they in fact do influence politics and banking on the basis of the agreements made at this hotel in Switzerland, Nicole?
See a dinner at Boulay. That's where they'll be talking about this, right?
Who are they? Who are they?
Oh, they're CEOs, they're former CEOs, they're former politicians.
The former chairs of the Fed. Look, they're David Rockefeller.
There's a few heads of royal families.
Yeah, okay, there might be good ideas that come out of this. Why not share knowledge?
Okay.
Why not build relationships that at some point in time might be able to help you?
Hang on, Nicole. The Queen of Spain, John D. Rockefeller, Google CEO Eric Schmidt, former United States President, which one will be there? Bill Clinton, Ben Bernanke, Tim Geithner, the former chairs of the Federal Reserve. Are you worried about what agreements they might enter into at Bilderberg?
8. They study advance of federal aid to and control over our educational system, leading to complete federalization of our public education.
Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. The goal was to understand the effects of radiation exposure on the human body. While most of the tests were ethical by any standards, some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted. In too many cases, informed consent was withheld. Americans were kept in the dark about the effects of what was being done to them. The deception extended beyond the test subjects themselves to encompass their families and the American people as a whole. For these experiments were kept secret, and they were shrouded not for a compelling reason of national security, but for the simple fear of embarrassment.
9. A constant hammering into the American consciousness of the horror of modern warfare.
Wake up, America. Radical Islam is terrorizing the globe. ISIS, or the Islamic State, is attempting ethnic genocide in Iraq, trapping tens of thousands of innocent men, women, and children, all because they practice their faith in the way radical Islam disagrees with. And ISIS has already driven over 1 million Christians out of Iraq to Egypt, where extremist group Muslim Brotherhood went on their murderous rampage, killing Coptic Christians and burning down their churches just because they're Christian. To Israel, where the group Islamic Jihad has teamed up with the other radical Islam terror group Hamas and is firing rockets at innocent Israelis. Iran, Pakistan, Syria. Radical Islam isn't a jihad against Christianity and, frankly, anyone who doesn't worship the way they do. There's a common denominator with these murderous thugs. They're Islamic, they're radical, they're extremists, and they're purely intolerant. It's time to wake up. Check out this video of an ISIS leader who says, quote, "We will not stop until we raise the flag of Muhammad in the White House." Really? Our White House? I don't think so. We've been largely patient with these Islamic thugs. I've been pushing back on getting involved in conflicts that aren't ours. This persecution of Christians and the new war cry of "we will not stop until we raise the flag of Muhammad" at the White House changes everything. You want a holy war? We'll give you one. It just may be time to unleash hell on radical Islam. Don't worry, Islamic jihadists. Your 72 virgins await.
Willingness of the American people to allow the steps of appeasement by our government, which amount to a piecemeal surrender of the rest of the free world and of the United States itself.
don't think anybody could have predicted that they would try to use an airplane as a missile, a hijacked airplane as a missile.
Nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government that could envision flying airplanes into buildings.
No specific threat involving really domestic operation or involving what happened, obviously, the city's airliner and so forth.
There were no warning signs that I'm aware of.
USA Today reports that in the 2 years before the attacks on September the 11th, NORAD conducted exercises using hijacked airliners as weapons. And one target was the World Trade Center.
In confidential documents from the Philippines obtained by CNN, the plan was clear. He will board any American commercial aircraft, control its cockpit, and dive it at the CIA headquarters. Other buildings targeted the Pentagon and the World Trade Center.
Security in counterterrorism was blinking red, in the words of George Tenet, that the warnings of an imminent attack were so severe that something dramatic should have been done. It was unparalleled. Instead, our president went on a month-long vacation.
Insider's dust out of your eyes, my friends, and the communist soap suds out of your brain. And ask yourselves in all honesty, what on earth is wrong with the United States simply minding its own business?
I have in my possession a secret map made in Germany by Hitler's government, by the planners of the New World Order. It is a map of South America and a part of Central America, as Hitler proposes to reorganize it. Today in this area, there are 14 separate countries. But the geographical experts in Berlin have ruthlessly obliterated all existing boundary lines. They have divided South America into 5 vassal states, bringing the whole continent under their domination. That is his plan. It will never go into effect.
Defense Secretary Dick Cheney has approved a revised draft of a policy document on the New World Order. The Pentagon is backing off a controversial earlier draft and has abandoned a one superpower strategy. This would have had the U.S. aim to contain rivals for leadership such as Japan and Germany. The final document puts more emphasis on international alliances and organizations.
But the work is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national auto-determination practiced in past centuries.
In the fall of 2004, while in New York to cover the Republican National Convention, we ran into David Gergen, the Karl Rove of 4 presidential administrations. Okay, one last question. I read a Washington Times article many years ago where you had a comment about the organization, and then now it's been in the Wall Street Journal, it's been in a lot of different newspapers, and that's the Bohemian Grove. And back in, 1996, when you joined as a Clinton advisor, the Republicans were criticizing you. Oh, what about Bohemian Grove? And then you countered them by saying, "Hey, I don't run around in the woods naked." What did that mean? Here is the before-mentioned Washington Times article where he said, "I didn't run around naked like they do."
I don't know what quote you're referring to. I'm not aware of any quote like that. Listen, I am a happy member of the Bohemian Grove. I like the folks who come there, and it's really inappropriate for me to talk about the group beyond that. Thank you.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about.
Really?
That's right.
Well, I'm Alex Jones, and I snuck in there in 2000. I'm the guy that blew it wide open and got the video. It's been on national TV.
Well, I just respect you for that.
You do?
I do.
But it's a lot of big public officials going in there. Don't we deserve to know?
You took I don't know anything about you, and I don't know anything about your film, but if you go in there with an understanding, you violated that understanding by releasing that film, and I don't respect you for that.
Really? But we have public officials.
I'm sorry, you took an understanding when you went in there that you would not do that film, and did you have an understanding when you went in there?
No.
Did you crash it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it has no trespassing signs there too, doesn't it?
No, they put them up after.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir. I've been there before. I know what the circumstances are, and I'm sorry you violated the understandings. That was not a gentlemanly thing to do.
But what about the ritual? Is the ritual gentlemanly?
Sir, everything. I don't owe you this comment.
I know. I appreciate it.
This is what's called ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that as well. So thank you and goodbye.
The ritual?
That's none of your damn business.
Oh.
That's right. Listen. You go around and make understandings with people and violate them. You ambush people on the streets when that's an inappropriate form of journalism. If you wish to practice that, that's fine, but don't ask others to respect you for it. If you want to, you can do your free American like anything you want. If you want to be uncivil and rude and ungentlemanly, that's up to you. But don't expect the rest of us to say, "Oh well, you're
there, Mr. Gergen."
I'm sorry, nobody says policy in there. We try to be gentlemen, and obviously you don't belong there.
Weaving spiders come not here. Yeah, that is a three-pointer. Woo! Look how strangely he behaved when we brought it up. Why is he acting so secretive? And why did he get so angry when he discovered that we'd snuck in? You see, they take it very, very seriously. This is one of the hallmarks of the occult and secret societies. The word occult means secret. Secrecy is part of their religion. They revel in it. And when it's violated, they become extremely angry. How widespread is the occult? The answer is extremely widespread.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Commission have recently replied to my written question, confirming that Commissioners Almunia and Kroes attended the Bilderberg meeting in St. Moritz in June. The Commission cannot tell me details of what was discussed, but assure me that the Bilderberg meetings do not take decisions. If Bilderberg meetings are just talking shops, why do the most important and powerful figures from around the world, including George Osborne, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, bother to attend? And what other summit of world leaders in politics, finance and business would go completely unreported in the mainstream media, such as the BBC? It is impossible not to reach the conclusion that the non-reporting of these events is anything other than a conspiracy between the organisers and the media. It merely confirms the belief of many that the hidden agenda and purpose of the Bilderberg Group is to bring about undemocratic world government. It's a disgrace that the European Commission is colluding in that.
Bilderberg Group. People of influence, heads of finance, politicians, military men, and media moguls all meet once a year in secret behind closed doors to discuss how to further their agenda for a one-world government. The group was founded in 1954 at the Hotel Bilderberg in the Netherlands, where Prince Bernhard, a former Nazi SS party member, was integral in its creation. Since then, David Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger, and Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands have been highly involved. The formation of the European Union came at the hands of the Bilderberg Group, and they are continuing to manipulate the markets to this day.
The New World Order wants to create a world currency, a world government, a world army, a world religion. And it's not of Christ, of Buddha. It's not of the Muslim faith. It is a satanic order.
Where institutions of freedom have lain dormant, the United Nations can offer them new life. These institutions play a crucial role in our quest for a new world order.
Their agenda is control. Control of our currency, control of our families, of our freedoms, of our religions. They want it all. There's nothing that you have, or ever had, or ever hope to have that they're not planning on taking away. They want it all. If you take a look at the backside of the dollar bill, it'll say Novus Ordo Seclorum, the new social order. And they have the pyramid. And that has nothing, not a damn thing to do with the United States of America. I was going to take a look at, a bill. And you can take a look on the backside of the bill and it'll say, here. You can hardly see it. But it's Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order. It's what Hitler envisioned. It's on the backside of the United States dollar bill. The eye of the pyramid, also called the eye of Horus, is the eye of Lucifer. This is what we are facing.
Hundreds of anti-capitalist protesters are in Washington to try to disrupt meetings of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund.
At every street corner around the IMF and the World Bank, the demonstrators have set up human chains to stop the meetings taking place.
What is the Bohemian Grove? Well, it's a kind of summer camp for the powerful. Among its members, political figures like Gerald Ford, President Reagan, Vice President Bush. Richard Nixon is a Bohemian. Each year, guests like Henry Kissinger or Zbigniew Brzezinski address members on their areas of expertise.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine
by the military-industrial complex.
Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised.
We can find meaning and reward by serving some higher purpose than ourselves. A shining purpose, the illumination of 1,000 points of light.
No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. The quest for the new world order is in part a challenge to keep the dangers of disorder at bay.
We were interested today to hear that more than 100 law enforcement officials in Mexico are having microchips implanted in their arms. The chips allow a person to be scanned, sort of like a cereal box at the supermarket checkout.
I think the most important thing is for Barack Obama.
I think its task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created.
I think the New World Order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation.
But the burdens of global citizenship continue to bind us together. In this new century, Americans and Europeans alike will be required to do more, not less. Partnership and cooperation among nations is not a choice.
You know, there is such a thing as insidious influence. Does it involve bribery? And does it involve some sort of psychological domination of individuals?
But what does the New World Order mean for countries like ours?
A New World Order.
No world order that elevates one nation or group of people over another will succeed.
It's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
So it's going to be an inner ruling elite and then everyone else. And I got news for you. You're everyone else.
The whole concept of New World Order is something else. It really says that the state is God.
You take the roots of that organization and you find out that they created in all of the British dependencies what they call round table groups. Then around those little round table groups, they created front groups.
We're getting to two levels of government here. One level of government where we have checks and balances, and a higher level of COG government where the constitutional authorities are not allowed to go.
The New World Order really is a tool for addressing a new world of possibilities.
This is the third leg of the New World Order.
Now, much has been said by the Secretary of State and others about a new world order.